Hey Hoopers, it's Olivia, and if you're watching this video, that means you are watching the first video in my beginner hula hoop tutorials playlist here on YouTube. In this lesson, I will be going over isolations. You know them, you see them, you love them. Isolations are a very basic bread and butter hoop trick that are the basis for a lot of people's flows, and there are a ton of variations for isolations. In this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you 4, count them, isolations, and they are the two-handed isolation, the one-handed isolation, two-handed ghosting isolation, and a linear isolation that is a vertical, folding, ghosting isolation. And it's also a mouthful. These isolations range in difficulty from absolute beginner to more intermediate. You don't have to get them all down today. This is just my quick little overview of these 4 isolations to hopefully get you started with the hula hoop. And of course, you could always come back later on and learn the more difficult isolations whenever you are ready. So, starting off with our two-handed isolation, we are going to start off by gripping the hoop at the bottom. For this lesson, I will be referring to the hoop as a clock, in that I will be numbering spots on the hula hoop like spots on a clock. So this would be 12 o'clock, this would be 3 o'clock, this would be 6 o'clock, and this would be 9 o'clock. So grip the hula hoop with one hand. Make sure you have your fingers curled down so your fingertips are tucked into your palm, okay? From here, we are going to drive our left hand all the way up to 12 o'clock. Essentially what we are doing is we are tracing this outer right edge of our hula hoop all the way up to 12 so that our palm is now facing up and our fingertips are up as well. This is called a thumb-led isolation because, as you can tell, my little thumb here is leading. He's in front, okay? If it were a pinky-led isolation, that means my hand would be going clockwise, so my pinky is in front, leading the isolation. Make sure when you are doing this isolation, your thumb is leading up and to the right, counterclockwise, okay? So you just want to trace, trace, trace till you get up to the top. And then you want to take your right hand, grip under, and line your fingers all up. So this time when your hands meet at the top, your thumbs should be pointing opposite ways. From here, you are going to drop your left hand and then take your right hand and do a pinky leading isolation this time, all the way down back to 6 o'clock where we started. From here, we are going to take our left hand and plant it. This time, our thumbs are meeting down at the bottom, okay? And then from here, of course, we are going to isolate this right half of the hula hoop again. So we need to get rid of our right hand and trace, 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 trace up to the top. Regrip. Thumbs are pointing sideways away from each other. Drop the left hand. Isolate with our right. Okay? So as you get a feel for this, you'll want to just have a little check-in here and make sure that when you are meeting at the top, your thumbs are pointed away, and when you're meeting at the bottom, your thumbs are pointed towards each other. Okay? And if you are isolating the left, that means you have to drop your left hand and then come back together. Now I'm going to be isolating the right, so now I have to drop my right hand. All right, now we are going to move on to the second isolation, which is a little bit more difficult. It is our one-handed isolation. So, again, we want to start off in the same position that we started our two-handed isolation. We want to start off with one hand on 6 o'clock, fingers curled in underneath, so they're touching my palm. And this time I'm going to trace upward with a pinky-led isolation, okay? So that means I'm going counterclockwise all the way up, and my pinky is leading, right? And you'll notice that your arm can't quite move farther in this upward direction anymore. It's stuck, all right? So in this case, what you want to do is let go of the hoop. And when you let go of the hoop, it's going to roll. It's going to start to roll to your right. So your job is to let the hoop roll over the back of your hand and then catch it on the other side. So this time your palm is up, fingers are pointed up to the sky. Again, isolate, 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 all the way to where your arm can't even go any further. My arm is at about 2 o'clock on the hula hoop, and then I'm going to release, let it roll, and catch. And then from here, I'm going to do a pinky-led isolation, going counterclockwise all the way back down to 6 o'clock. Okay? So you'll notice that as a beginner, your isolations will tend to do this when you swap your hand from one side to the other. What I want you to focus on doing, if your isolations aren't staying in one place, is to move your hand and your arm physically to the left as you let go, okay? So forgetting about the hoop for a second, I just isolated all the way up to my 3 o'clock, and when I let go, I'm also going to move my arm as I rotate my wrist, okay? If you don't move your arm and just let go and re-catch, then your isolation isn't gonna look pretty because you're not moving your arm, right? You want to let go and move your arm and then re-grip. Let go, move your arm, and then re-grip. Okay, it's a very fast motion, but with practice, you'll be able to develop some muscle memory. The next variation of isolations that I'm going to be teaching today is this super mysterious two-handed ghosting isolation. So we haven't talked about the concept of ghosting yet, so I'm going to explain that right now for you. The concept of ghosting is pretty much exactly how it sounds, minus the millennial idea that you have in your head of when somebody doesn't text you back. That's not what we're talking about. In this instance, ghosting basically means tracing. So you'll notice that my one hand is doing an isolation, while my other hand is just tracing the hula hoop, right? This hand is not gripping the hula hoop or anything. It's ghosting. So, going back to our one-handed isolation, okay, we're going to incorporate a ghosting hand. For the purposes of teaching, I'm going to be leaving my ghosting hand open. It's my left hand. And I'm going to be calling this my holding hand, and it's going to be closed because this is the bad boy that's going to be doing all the work, okay? So, starting off with my pinky-led isolation that I just learned, I'm going to isolate, isolate, isolate all the way up to about 2 o'clock, where my hand and my arm cannot physically possibly move any far more upward. And my ghosting hand, my left hand, is going to trace the left side of my hula hoop as my holding hand is isolating to the right. This is how it should look like. From here, your elbows should be pointed up in quite an interesting angle like mine. And we are going to do the switch. Kind of fell out of frame there, so let me show you again. The switch, okay? So all I'm doing is just like in the last lesson, I'm letting the hoop roll over the back of my right hand, my holding hand, and re-gripping at about, I would say 10 o'clock on the hula hoop, okay? And as it's doing that flip, your ghosting hand, the left hand, is going to pass behind your right hand, okay? So this time your arm should be crossed right in front of you. If you look at my left hand, or my right hand, sorry, right here, it's the hand that's the arm that's closest to my chest, okay? And my pinky is going to be leading in isolation down, okay? So my fingertips should be curled towards my face. And again, this is the ghosting hand, the tracing hand, it's not doing anything. And we are going to fold our arms down to 6 o'clock and meet back here in the position that we started in. Now you'll notice that when you fold your arms down, 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 you want to try to keep your ghosting hand connected to the hoop as much as you can, but depending on how flexible you are or how big your hula hoop is, this might be a little bit harder to do, okay? As you can see, my arms aren't super flexible, so I'm not really making good contact with my hula hoop, and that's fine, it'll just come with practice. But you want to make sure once you get up to here, you do your switch and you cross, 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 arms in front of you, and then ghost it all the way down to 6 o'clock. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how your ghosting hand should be gripping the hoop. It's super easy, it's just a trick of the eye. What you're going to be doing is taking your ghosting hand and you are going to be folding it over your hula hoop, but I want you to make sure there's this little bitty hole that the hoop can slide around in, okay? This should be your grip for your ghosting hand. Compared to your holding hand, look, there's no space at all, right? So with a grip that is very loose in your ghosting hand, it'll look like the hoop is sliding in your hands in a super mysterious way, okay? But you're doing the same thing that I taught you with an open ghosting hand. You're going to isolate, isolate, isolate. This right hand's still doing all the work, right? Then you're going to flip and switch. Again, keeping a nice loose grip on my ghosting hand. Make sure that my ghosting hand is on the right side of my hula hoop and my holding hand is on the left. And from here, we're going to ghost down, 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 down. Left hand passes over right. So now I'm going to be talking about how to do this super dope vertical folding isolation, okay? It's super simple to do. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with our hands at 12 o'clock on the hula hoop. Thumbs should be pointed inward, okay, like this, okay? And from here, we are going to ghost the hula hoop vertically up above our head. If you don't know how to do this vertical ghosting motion yet, it's super easy. I'll break it down for you. Starting with just one hand, my holding hand, holding the hula hoop at 12. Grip is an overhand grip, which means my fingers are curled under the hula hoop. I'm going to bring my hoop up to my chest and shoot my elbow out to my right as I do that. Once you get here, you should be holding 3 o'clock on the hoop, okay? So we're here, now we're here. From here, we are going to shoot our hula hoop up above our head so that this time our hand is on 6 o'clock. And my fingers, my fingernails, are curled towards my face, right? And then we're going to bring it back down to our chest, shooting our arm out to the side, making sure our thumb is pointed up. And from here, pushing the hula hoop down to our waist, holding the hula hoop at 12 o'clock, just as how we started this isolation. Okay, so all we're doing for this vertical move is this. Okay? Now we're going to incorporate our ghosting hand, tracing hand, the left hand, right? Bam. Put it right here. Do not grip the hula hoop. And it's going to mirror the same emotions as my right hand. So if my right hand is shooting up to the sides, so is my ghosting hand. And if my right hand is bringing the hoop above my head, so is my ghosting hand. Okay? They are mirroring each other, but your left hand is the one that's doing the tracing. When you're ready, go ahead and take your tracing hand and close it over the hula hoop in this grip, making sure not to grip the hula hoop too hard. You want to give it some good space so that the hula hoop can easily slide in your hands, like your hand is a little sleeve for the hoop, okay? Compared to your holding hand, there should be no space at all. So you're going to take your hands and you're going to line them up. And you're going to do what we just learned, but with two hands, making sure that you have a nice little sleeve for the hoop to slide in. So, getting back to our folding isolation, we are going to isolate, isolate, isolate up over our heads. From here, I'm going to drop down so you guys can see. I'm going to take my left side and then fold the hoop to my right so that this time my holding hand has my fingers twirled towards the camera, okay? Again, so I isolated up, 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 up. Using my ghosting hand, I'm going to twist the hula hoop so my arms cross, and my holding hand has my fingers towards the camera. From here, I'm going to re-grip the hula hoop with my ghosting hand, making sure I got that nice little sleeve. And I'm going to isolate down, 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 down. And then when my hands feel like they're in this really awkward position and they can't isolate down anymore, I'm taking the left side and, like the same as the top, I'm folding it to my right as I'm twisting my wrists. So I end up in this same spot that I started in, with my fingers curled down towards the floor, my hands at 12. Again, we're going to go over the folds. Isolate, up, 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 up. Bring the left side of the hoop to the right. Okay? And then re-grip with my ghosting hand. So my thumbs are pointed inwards towards each other. Fingers are curled towards the outside. Okay? And then I'm going to ghost down, 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 down. Once I feel like I'm in this awkward position, I'm still doing the same thing, using my ghosting hand to flip the hoop out into my right, and then re-gripping. So you will notice that as you do this little ghosting mechanism, your holding hand is holding onto the hoop the entire time. It's not doing any weird grip changes or anything like that. It's all in your wrist as you fold the hoop to the right, then you re-grip. So both thumbs are pointed in towards each other and ghost down, 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 and then you flip inwardly again and uncross. So those are 4 beginner isolations that I think are super necessary when you are first starting off with hooping. Go ahead and take your time with these isolations and learn them at your own pace. If you're ready for another hoop lesson, I recommend you check out the second installment of my beginner hula hoop tutorials playlist, which is going to be all about escalators. If you guys enjoy the way I teach and the way I hoop and you would like to connect with me more, be sure to follow my hooping Facebook and my hooping Instagram. Both will be linked in the description below. Alrighty, thanks for watching guys, and happy hooping.